We're shedding our masks and breaking down walls. Hell, we may even drop our drawers. That's right. We're going commando with Angela and Dave. Hi, my name is Dana Zerdano. This is Angela DeMarco, and we are going commando. Going Commando's little show. I'm gonna muscle through. Going Commando's little show that we put together because we celebrate authenticity. We celebrate stepping into your greatness, embracing it, and bringing it to the world. And we do it aggressively. And we're doing our best to do that. And we're hoping by doing so, we encourage you to do the same. Our chuckles coming in is Angela's so good at dropping the bombs on me. And it's like, and go. And here we are. So I muscled through. I kept it together for the most part. And good morning, Miss Angela.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, I know. You did really good. I actually forgot that we were recording, and I was so excited to tell you this. And then I was like, hey.
You didn't even know I was going in for it, but I was like, fuck it.
I know. So as if you're watching our show, you can see that Dana and I are now wearing our commando gear. We were going to be on a game show with some fellow podcast friends, and we were all suited up and ready to go, and then it got canceled yesterday. So, come on, boys, bring it!
Yeah, we got our shorts. We're ready.
We're ready. Our shorts. I'm about to cut the collar though, because you know me.
I couldn't believe you came in. I knew that you were rushed for time because I was like, her collar's not cut. Like, yeah.
Well, this is just for everybody. So we'll get to throat chakra. We're not there yet, but I used to always wear scarves. Always loved turtlenecks. Always loved like squishing. And now I'm like, I need my throat chakra open. It's like constraining.
I love it.
Yeah. So yesterday, I got to talk about yesterday. Yesterday was like this awesome day. I had. I do my Instagram scrolling, and there was an ad for this dance company doing a show to Sting's music. And I love Sting's music, like Fragile and all these beautiful songs that are his. And, I was like, I'm going to go. So I bought myself a ticket on a Sunday when, Dave had Christian. And, so I had nothing to worry about. And then Maddie tells me that it's also the day of her film screening, her freshman film screening. And I'm like, I can make this work. And it was just like this incredible, the performance was so incredible. Now I don't know like contemporary dance, but it was like contemporary dance and hip hop, and it was interpretation of the songs. They wrote this really emotional storyline to go through all the songs.
Oh, that's
it
cool.
it was I was crying. It was just like, it was truly, truly something to behold. And I was so perfectly content sitting by myself in the back of the theater, like just like sobbing away. By the end, I'm like, and then Sting comes out and he's like so grateful to the dancers, and the dancers are so grateful to him. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's so collaboration. It's just a testament to like, you and I have this special thing, Dana. Like we have like this amazing, connection, collaboration. We get so excited for our creative projects. Everything is like, okay, and so everything is beautiful because we have so much love behind it. And when I see other people who have that and experience that, it's just like,
yeah. And
magical.
I liked the Police. So like, I like Sting. Like I but I'm not like, oh my God, Sting. But I'll tell you, it's very clear in his music that he knows what's up. Like he knows what's up. He's creative genius. He's connected, spiritual guy, and I don't know his whole biography, but it's clear. So the thought that they collaborated and created something, an extension, you know what I mean? Like an expansion of what he does. I could only imagine how appreciative he was. Not a diva at all. You should have done it this way. You should have done it this way.
No.
He must have been like, to see that people receive what he's doing and expanded it in the way they did,
Yeah. And what it was is I don't know the story. I was just reading in my little playbill here. The two people that put this together, one was from like a dance show on London, like a winner of a dance contest, one of those things. And then the other one was just like a choreographer who had a hip hop company. And she was like, I love your music. I love your style. And I know you love Sting. I love Sting. And they for like years, they wrote the script. And what's really cool, what they said in it was that they blocked out the story to go with the songs before they did any dance moves to it. Like they kind of like painted the story with the dance moves. And you could tell, like you could feel like the dancers were incredible in how they expressed. I mean, it's like contemporary dance is just all about like full on express, like a language. And it was just they all told a story with no words, and oh my god, they did such a good job. They did such a good job.
My goodness. Do you remember the show, like, you know, like when American Idol was big and then they got The Voice and all that, but there was a show called So You Think You Could Dance?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And basically they would take these beautiful songs and they would create this choreography. And this was around the time that my children were babies. So I was like in home at night with the clicker. And I remember they would bring me to tears. And it was that contemporary. The hip hop ones and the other ones were fine. But when they get all like, they would like do this.
I know what that means.
And I would be like, ah! Like my heart hole would just like explode, you know? It really is beautiful.
It was, and it was cool because like the way that these dancers move their bodies, like I'm just like, they like defy gravity.
Oh my god, I can't even go up and down the stairs when I'm
they're like standing and they just do like a crazy flip and then like a break dance move, and I'm just like, oh my, I'm tired watching you, but thank you. Yeah, so that was really cool. And then Maddie had her film screening last night, so I went to the college and it was all the freshman films. And my daughter is a freshman film student. She's never made a film in her life, and they chose her script, and she got to collaborate with 13 kids in her grade, in her class, and they put together such a beautiful movie. And it wasn't even about the end product. It was a whole journey of creating it, you know. Yeah. And I was just in awe. I was in awe of all the kids. All the kids' work was like, oh my god, dude, this exists in children. This is crazy.
And you know what's really cool is that, I mean, that's all sacral chakra. That's all creativity. These children.
Way to segue.
No, we're talking solar plexus today, and we're going to segue. Oh, shit. But yeah, but just this idea that they understand, they embrace their creativity, and they're fearless in bringing it to the world. It's really a beautiful thing. But the segue that I do want to make about the solar plexus chakra, or part 2 on the solar plexus chakra, is how you had the confidence and the self-worth and the desire to go to this thing and have this experience. You know, there is such a degree of lack of worthiness in many of us that like we're like, I know when you think worthiness, or when I think worthiness, I think worthy of something. But even having the I can't go by myself. Like, or what will people think, or that's uncomfortable, or whatever it is. And you know, your sense of identity, solar plexus, your sense of confidence. I could go through the city by myself and be and sit by myself and do these things. You got to have this beautiful experience that's going to stay with you, like my river otters, by the way. But that's going to, you know what I mean? Still talking about it. Beautiful experience. But you have this beautiful experience that is now a part of you, because that's how this works. And it's because you have a healthy solar plexus chakra, among other things, obviously. So that's a really, really cool thing. There's my segue.
Yeah. That's a good segue. Okay, so as I can go on and on about like all the personal stuff I've gone on in my life, but I will not. I'll save that for dropping bombs right before Dana starts the show.
There you go.
So we're in the season of balance, and we are discussing all the chakras. So Dana has a book called Veda Finds Her Crown. And it's an incredible little story of these kids that she's characterized for each of the chakras, and they go through and they have their little story. And Veda is the third eye chakra, and she's looking for her crown, and it's a really, really sweet story. And then in the back of the book, there's a whole workbook for each chakra, and so we're kind of like doing the workbook, right? Like we're kind of like doing the workbook, episodes, yeah. And so we're dedicating 2 episodes per chakra, and the first one we kind of talk about what it looks like when it's imbalanced, what are some of the things that happen, what's the age of resonance, like a little education, kind of things to contemplate. And then the second episode of the chakra, we're talking about like how to rectify those imbalances and what healthy looks like, such as going to a Sting show by myself in the city, and how you can, things that you can do to embrace that newfound thing that unlocks. And Dana's brilliant, and she has all this wisdom, and every time I go through this work, this girl. every time I personally go through this work, I mean, I just get more and more and more empowered, and I feel more joyful, and I feel more blissful, even though some things get uncovered where I'm like, ugh, it's icky.
Yeah.
Because it is what it is. But if we can look back on our past and kind of look at it without emotion and just take it as facts and use the facts to figure out where our imbalances lie and like where they're rooted, and then try to like, change the way we do stuff.
Yeah,
Like
man. Well
go to a
said.
sting show. Go to a sting show.
But well said, because it truly, truly, our external world truly reflects our internal world. And I know that this is an evergreen episode, and it's not going to be relevant when somebody watches. What I'm about to say is not going to be relevant. But this week I'm doing an instead talk. I'm basically, I'm doing a talk, and it's called an instead talk because you do your little talk, and then there's a lot of interaction with the group. And I'm going to talk about a lot of this stuff. And one of the main points, because I've been thinking a lot about what I'm going to say, and one of the main points is every single thing in our external world is a reflection of a belief that we have about ourselves and the world around us, which is a reflection, and then our imbalances in the aspects of ourselves, or the balances of our aspects. So if we understand what all our aspects are, and we understand whether they're balanced or imbalanced, and when they're imbalanced, if we could recognize the belief around them, we could truly map out the direction we want to go and be the creators of our life. And it's really, really cool. Really cool. I'm really excited to do the talk. So when you watch,
awesome.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
I'm excited too. So when you watch this episode, now go find the instead talk, because it's somewhere in the in the ethers, and somewhere in the interwebs. But
it's hosted by Biz Catalyst 360, correct?
Yes.
Is that the host? And Dennis Pitoko, he's awesome. He puts this whole thing together,
Yeah, he's
and it's open for everybody. So if you happen to find it, even I think he does them every few months, right? Like
I think so.
A handful of awesome speakers, and it's really engaging, and I'm super excited on the front seat. I'm like, Miss Sardano, I have a question.
I love it. But let's talk about the solar plexus. So last week we talked about what it looks like to have an imbalanced solar plexus. You tend to lack confidence. You don't really have a sense of identity. You kind of go with what people are telling you to do or be. Lack worthiness. Sometimes you get prone to anxiety, all these feelings, and usually the solar plexus chakra, because the age of resonance is between 14 and 21, usually it's because it's built on 0 to 14 with a faulty sacral or a faulty root chakra. But what I want to do, I just want to jump right into it, because we're easing into this episode, and just start going through some of the questions that you could ask yourself. You cool with that?
Go for it.
Okay. So worthiness, I got them right here. Worthiness is a big one. So ask yourself questions like, am I worthy of and empowered to pursue my purpose? Do I self-sabotage? That's a big one. Oh, I wanted to do this thing and then it didn't happen. Was there a little part of me that kind of added to that? Is there a little voice deep within that thinks I'm not worthy of the life that I desire? Is it possible that I may get stuck with the immediately attainable stuff and fantasize about the big, hairy, audacious projects because I deep down believe that I can never attain them, and that wouldn't be considered a failure because the projects are so big? That's kind of extreme. That was a lot to say. But in other words, I have it written. In other words, how often do I get stuck in my current circumstances rather than work through them, and then I pursue a fantasy that's clearly out of reach? So I feel I have to prove my worth. So I want to know where you stood and where you stand in that now.
Ooh, okay. So when let's just put it in terms of like finduniquelyyou.com.
Yep.
Right? Because
Perfect example.
that was like a big one. And when I first told you the idea back in November 2020, we talk about the whole origin story of that. It was just an idea, and it was like one of those things. I was like, I'll do things that are like kind of innocuous. Like I'll buy the URL, I'll invest a little money, I'll invest some time, but there was never anything that I really like fully went into. And I think it's because I didn't have faith in myself, the worthiness, I need other people's money, I need other people's things to get this done. Like I can't do it on my own. And by the time we bought the house, I think that was a big change for me, because it was the first time I bought a house, and it was because I was bringing the money in, so it was not like I was a big part of that. At that point in time, I feel like I felt worthy to quit my job and do the business full time. It still took a while, but to embrace it. But I was just like, no, this is what I want to do. I'm ready to deal with whatever fallout
Yeah.
there is. But it was about over a year that it took
Yeah.
me.
And I could even see like there's a degree to, and I saw this in myself a lot with any of my pursuits, especially coming right out of education and going to be an artist, the need to prove. The need to prove, because there was some serious attachments to uniquely because you were going to prove something, and that really comes from that solar plexus. I've seen it in almost every aspect of my life throughout my life. Oh yeah, watch me. Oh yeah, I'll
Yeah.
show you. Hold my beer.
Yeah.
That is proving. And there's one thing to do these things because the desire is so strong and you're doing them, but there's another thing to do them to prove that you can, or prove, oh my God, I climbed Masada. You know, I tell a whole story in Decoding Woo Woo how I climbed this. I'll call it it was more like a plateau than a mountain, but I climbed this mountain to prove that I could. And I was at another point in my life that I was like, who fucking cares? Who fucking cares?
Yeah.
And you get to that point. So when a solar plexus is imbalanced, there's a lot of that, and it sneaks in. You don't even realize it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and especially before the pivots. I mean, we pivoted later than I should have because I felt the need to prove it to, my ex-husband, who was like, it's not working. And I was like, no, it's going to work. It's going to work. I'm going to make it work.
Yeah, yeah. And we don't realize how much we do that in relationships all the time because my mother doesn't like my boyfriend. I'm gonna prove the shit out of this, and then it's just you just break up a year later instead of breaking up then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
totally.
There's a lot about proof and attachment and all that, but that's a lot of solar plexus stuff. I want to talk about identity for a second because identity is a big one. Because that truly is your center of identity, like of like empowerment. Think about it. If the ages of residence are 14 to 21, that's when kids take all the shit they picked up and now they're like, okay, I'm going to dye my hair green. I'm going to dye my hair blue. I'm going to be a doctor. No, I'm going to be a painter. No, that's the age. Think about it, 14 to 21. Because even when we went off to college, you still had 18 to 21 that you were still figuring it out. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So identity.
Yeah.
I am overly concerned about what others think of me. Have I created a persona? If so, is this persona in alignment with my true self? Do I allow other people's opinions of me to alter my true identity? Has my identity shifted with my personal growth, or am I still attached to my previous identity? Do I feel I have to prove myself so as to fit into the identity that I chose for myself? That's a big one.
That's a big one. That's a big one. We talked about how when I was in high school, I wanted to be a doctor because my uncle was the only male figure in my life who really was like someone I respected, someone I looked forward to seeing, someone who really cared for me, who paid attention.
Yeah.
He's the only one, like, of all of them. And so I wanted to be a doctor like him. And that was what we tried to be like our adults. Like, I did not want to be like my mother. She was an accountant. And I didn't want to be like anybody else. Like I even an artist, like my aunt was an artist, but I still it didn't jive with me. So I identified with Uncle John. I wanted to be like Uncle John, and then Uncle John died right the day after I turned 18. And so then I was like waffling for 4 years. But I think when I was, what would be my fifth semester? So 18, 19, when I was 20, in my fifth semester at USF. It was my last semester there before I left because of extenuating circumstances.
Whoopsie.
Oh yeah. I definitely took classes in some things. I took an art class, and that's where I was like, and it woke something up in me, and then like, it was like right at the end, I caught it right at the end, luckily. If it had been a couple years later, I might not have like truly found it.
Yeah.
But I took that art class, and then I came home and I took a semester off, and I was answering phones for a accounting firm, like my stepdad's accounting firm. And I was like, I can't do this the rest of my life. I'm going back to school. And I was like, I can go to school for art. I can make pictures for a living. And that, like, my career has been something I've never had any kind of like, I've never had a concern about it. It's never
Yeah.
changed. That
Yeah.
hasn't changed of me, but my artistic ability,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. But, again, that sense of identity, we'll say 14 to 21, that's when it starts to get established. Again, building on, I'm going to talk about personal identity, building on that 0 to 14. I was always in my house, the big mouth, the troublemaker, the one that, Dana, like that was me. So what do I have to do? I have to prove myself. So now I go into my solar plexus years, those ages of identity, tough girl Dana. Now I had some trauma in my sacral chakra, right? I had with some trauma, and also the identity was about, nobody really cares what I have to say. Oh, Dana, shut up. I have to be the bulldozer to get what I want, right? Because I learned this. So then I have this trauma in my sacral chakra that led to some really difficult experiences in my life. So the belief that I carried going into those solar plexus years was life is hard. I am strong. I will overcome. So my identity, my whole life, everything I did was built around that belief about myself. So what am I going to do? I'm going to have experiences and patterns my entire life that are difficult.
Yeah.
Because life is difficult. I am strong. I will overcome. And I took pride in my always overcoming because that was my identity. And so then as I evolved now 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever, going into my adult life, as my life started to change and get a little bit easier and I learned how to navigate it a little bit better, I had to reconcile that identity. And we do that a lot. We don't put our old identities, our old beliefs about ourselves to rest. You know what I mean? So I was having trouble when I met Rob and life started to get a little bit easier and stuff like that. It's like I almost started creating issues because I have to overcome them because that's my identity.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying now. My beliefs going into my solar plexus years were, nobody pays attention to me. I'm not worthy of love. I have to perform to get attention. I have to be the good girl. I have to entertain. I have to be the chameleon. That's what I learned.
And that was your whole life. So then what happens is we meet. We have relationships. I was going to say men, but men, women, whoever the hell you're meeting, you know what I mean? You meet the opposite sex and then you have this relationship with them because whatever they are, they're feeding into that pattern, giving you an opportunity to learn from it. But then when it falls apart, they're the asshole and we're the victim. And then we move on to the next one if we don't see that. I've always joked with you and with others about like the first husband. Your first husband.
Starter husband.
What's that?
The starter
husband. But the starter husband or your first husband, he didn't do this to you.
Yeah.
He was a representation of what you believed about yourself through the identity that you developed. Yes. And if you didn't learn from that relationship, then the second, third, and fourth husbands are going to look like that one, just different face, different name. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really, really interesting. Everything goes back to what we believe about ourselves, and our identity is the big one. And that's built upon the previous chakras, and it's established and it's continued. If it's faulty, if we don't look at it, it will continue throughout our lives,
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, I carried that self-loathing, lack of worthiness up until I got sober when I was 35. And then for the first time, I didn't have like a refuge. I didn't have a thing to go to run away to. So I had to face all the stuff that I was hiding from.
Yeah.
That's essentially why people like get wasted, right? Like adults get wasted because you're hiding from something. You're taking drugs because you're numbing yourself because you don't want to deal with that pain. I had such self-loathing that I wanted to crawl under the floorboards and just go away,
Yeah.
But I couldn't. I had Maddie, like thank God I had a reason.
Yeah.
But that was at that point I was able to see, and I changed all of my people, places, and things because that's kind of like what you're supposed to do when you get sober. And then it still took, however many years now, 14 years. So let's say like I started this work really deeply 4 years ago, like when I lost Josh and went on a spiritual journey. It takes time. It takes time to get that stuff.
Yep. And it's a constant evolution too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have lived many, many identities. in my life.
Well, that's a good thing, because that's the
Yeah.
thing. We get attached to the identity, and that's who I am, and we don't release it and move on to the next thing. But if we're constantly evolving, our identity is changing. I talk about this in 10 Recs with attachment. And I talk about attachment to stuff, attachment to relationships, attachment to beliefs, but I talk about attachment to identity. And I think about, I had like these things because we want to think highly of ourselves. You know what I mean? So we kind of create this sort of thing about ourselves. Like I'm athletic, because athletic people are strong and they're in good shape and they're not, pathetic and gross, whatever, you know what I mean? So I want to identify with that. So I do that. And now when I'm no longer athletic because I have a health issue, then where's my worth? Because I attached it to that identity.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a lot of that. Everybody wants to identify as something. And the more you identify and the more specific that thing is that you identify with, all you're doing is alienating yourself as much as you can. So instead of us all, and again, this is getting a little bit like out there and broad, but instead of just accepting that we are all the same in some way, we're all humans with our own quirks and our own differences and our own, whatever, afflictions even, you know what I mean? But when we start going, I'm this, so you're the enemy, and I'm that, you're the enemy, we really set ourselves up for problems.
Totally. And there's one thing I wanted to think of. I was thinking about how when we were going through like agreeing to do the divorce, and Dave's like, you've changed. And I was like, yeah, of course I've changed, And it was like, I was thinking about it. So we expect children to change. They physically change, they emotionally change, they grow. At one point, is it like acceptable to say, okay, you're 23, no more changing. I got into a relationship with you. You shouldn't change. Like, do we not get wrinkles? Do we still not have physical changes that happen? Like accepting that people change is a beautiful thing, because that means we're evolving and growing. And it's like, sometimes we're changing for the better, sometimes we're changing for the worse, because we're not, taking those lessons as they come, and just life gets hard and you become a character, like you said, a caricature of yourself. But constant change.
So really the answer is to be mindful of our changes. When we're mindful of what we experience, what comes into the equation, whether it be just through, what we watch, what we eat, what we experience, when we become aware of that, and then we integrate that because we learned from it, whether we want to or not, there's always something to learn from it, and we integrate it, we are going to change. So if we're going to have a bunch of low vibrational, like shitty experiences, it's going to change us. We have trauma. It changes us, but we decide how. I'm not saying we're not going to feel grief, but we decide how. It could change us where we go into the depths of despair and start to spiral into a lesser version of ourselves, or rise up from it and become a better version of ourselves. You lost a baby. And look how it's changed you.
Yeah.
Because
the good.
Yeah, of course.
For the good. Because just in case people are not aware of the story.
Just to be clear, because you chose the direction and how you wanted to be changed. I think about many of us have gone through atrocities. I mean, you and I, through all these shows, we've got a laundry list of all the bullshit that we've experienced. You know what I mean? And in that moment, it's going to suck. You're going to feel it, but you make a choice. How do you want it to change you? And your identity is going to shift from that. I want to just really quickly, the last two, I want to talk about confidence and self-esteem, because that's huge. So I'm going to do them all together because it's just a few. Confidence. Do I exude self-confidence, or is it an act of self-protection? Oh my God, for years, this gal.
Big one.
Am I confident enough in myself to detach from
For those who are listening, Dana just boxed her mic. So.
Yeah, man, I'm watching you. So am I confident enough in myself to detach from what no longer serves me? And self-esteem. Am I comfortable with myself? Am I enough? Do I treat myself with the same respect that I do others? Do I hold myself to standards that align with a healthy self-esteem? So that's a lot. That's a lot. Those are, you know what I mean?
Those are big ones. I mean, definitely, I was a fake it till you make it person in everything I did, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'll catch up. I'll figure it out. Like that was always my mantra. Yeah. I'll run a business. I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah. I'm a founder.
Yeah.
With an inside shaking in my boots, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And mine was, fuck with me and find out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And still a little bit in there.
Can't take the jersey out of it, folks.
I almost just kicked my Mike's ass. I'll show you. I'll prove it. But seriously, like there was this degree of like self-protection.
Mhm.
That's self-protection. I'm strong. I overcome, and that's it. Don't fuck with me. You know what I mean? And what happens is when you get yourself balanced, and then we'll talk about the heart chakra and all that, and the open heart chakra, and you feel safe and loved and worthy and blah. You no longer have to prove. You no longer have to be aggressive about it. It just is because you're okay. You know?
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful way to wrap this one up.
Yeah, I think so too. Can I do a card?
Yeah. Let's pull a card. Pull a card.
Pull a card. For those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, I created a deck of cards that go along with the book, with all the characters, all little exercises, activities, and stuff like that. I had them ready this time. They weren't all backwards and shit. I was ready. But I pulled 3 that I liked. So pick a number between 1 and 3.
I'm going to go 2.
Okay. That's the one I was hoping you'd pick. Okay. Okay, so this one, I release the need to control.
Whoa. Ooh, is that for me?
Yeah.
Me?
I release the need to control, and the crystal is amber. Okay, so...
Wait, amber is the color of your energy. Whoa. Shades of music played naturally. Sorry.
That was awesome. Okay. What are 3 things I can do to care for myself and my well-being? Choose one of them and do it today. What you got, Mama?
Ooh. Well, I already have my celery juice.
I already pooped it out.
Yep. I had a good poop. It's not laundry. One thing I need to do more of is take my 10 minutes to sit and breathe. I'm going to do that.
Oh, do you? Is that something you need to do?
Shut the fuck up.
Okay. All right.
Fuck you.
Only if you knew that that's something that you should do.
Fuck you.
Yeah, dude. You got to make it a part of your. You got to make it a part of your. Your thing.
I do.
I'm
what are you gonna do?
So my 3 things. I'm just gonna tell you what I have to do every day to be well, and I do this because I'm worth it. When I get up, I make breakfast for everybody, even though they get up and move around at different times. It makes me feel good to make sure everybody's fed. I drink my celery juice. I make my shake. I drink my shake. I go for a walk. On the days that I don't go for a walk, I always go sit outside and stare at the birds and then clean myself up. And then I get on with my day. And because I do that, I dedicate to myself. I dedicate to my family, dedicate to my health. I dedicate to my peace, to the things that matter. And it's everything. It's everything.
Yeah.
And I've always done a version of that. I used to get up and run, you know what I mean? But the older I get and the more balanced I become, the more, the less driven my morning routine is, like the less proving, and the more just peaceful it is, like watching the birds, like, remember the Blue Jays and the fucking woodpeckers.
Do you remember when I first started walking and I was like, Dana, because we're both runners.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm fucking walking, dude. I feel like such a loser. And now I love it. Now it's just like, because I'm not doing it for exercise. I'm not doing it for, like you said, like to be driven for a purpose.
Yeah.
I'm doing it because it feels good to move my body. It feels good to look around, to say hi to the neighbors, like it just feels good.
Yeah. And I do it in the morning, just let everything, like watch everything wake up. And it's funny that you say that because everything was driven. I used to, when I run, like it had to be a certain amount of time. So if I was quick on time, I would like do another lap around the block, like just like weird shit, Yeah. And now, I'm bringing it up again, my river otter experience. Like I decided to forego my walk and play with the river otters and hang out with the river otters. Whereas before that would be unheard of. But no, the drive, the prove. So there is a sense of balance, solar plexus related, that goes with that. Cool.
Yeah. So Before we wrap up, last episode we started giveaways, and we were able to give away a couple prezzies, which was really fun. So if you want to like track back a little bit and answer any of the questions that Dana's asked, you can answer at high level, but answer it in the comments in YouTube and on our YouTube channel, and subscribe if you're not already. But chances are, if you made it this far, you're probably one of our subscribers. So mwah, I love you.
Ganku.
So to celebrate you, answer one of the questions just at a high level. You don't have to give too much detail, and we'll send you a Prezi in the mail.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Yeah.
And I'll make it easy because, I could see people being like, oh my God, what question? What do you mean? What do I say? Say anything in the comments and you'll likely get it.
Say poop, say fart, say whatever. Yeah. Okay, let's sign us out.
All right, let's do it. I got a wheel. I got a dead same thing. My bike.
Sorry, that was probably annoying. Oh, geez. What are we hoping to get today?
Don't be a dildo! Synchronicity at its finest!
Goodbye, everybody.
Yeah, goodbye, dude. I don't even know why.